What's going on, traders? Much requested video to talk about my risk management and how I've been using a new risk management, which is actually an old risk management, which, as always, let's just jump right into it. So, if you look back here on the P&L chart, all the way down here at the bottom, this is the beginning of 2021, January 1st, 2021. And at that time, I was trying to make $30. And while I was risking 150, I was only trying to make that 30 bucks. So it was 5x what I was attempting to make on a daily basis. However, I started to get away from that because it turned from trying to make $30 for the day into sometimes I wouldn't make $30 on the day. I would only make like 20. And then I started trying to figure out how much I was actually making per trade. At that time, I was trying to make that $30 in 3 trades. So it would be 10, 10, 10. So then I started to realize, well, for every trade I'm trying to make $10, I'm risking 150, which is actually 15x of for any given trade, I'm actually risking 15 times what I'm trying to make. So that was actually what it turned into. It went from 5x, which was the $30 150, to 15x, which was $10 150. And as I started to scale, so like when I went to $50, that would mean I was trying to make like 15-ish dollars, a little bit more than that, like $16. It was now 15 times that amount. And then when we got to say $75, now it was $25 per trade, which was 15x of that. So now you can see how it continued to go. So when I got to the point where I was trying to make $100 a day, that was $33. I had pushed it up. And I remember saying at some point, there was a lot of trades where I was basically top ticking because of the max loss. And I was like, well, if I just give it a little bit more room, maybe it'll work out. Well, that never seemed to be the case. It was like no matter how much little bit more room I gave it, it would always seem to go up and hit my max loss and turn back around. So at some point, I basically said, I'm just going to put it at 1,000 because I know I'd be okay with risking 1,000, which was only 3% of my account. And that was where the percentage of my overall account came from. I had $30,000 in the account. I was willing to risk 3% of that. That was $1,000. However, that was a very bad thing because now I was only making, sometimes $30 a day, but at any given time on any given trade, I was risking $1,000. And that was not good. That was not good at all. So it took a while and it took a bunch of max losses for me to really go back and look at my stats on those max losses. And what I found is that after a certain point, it just really didn't make sense to be in the trade anymore. And if you guys have watched me trade, and FSR is a great example that happened today. If I start a trade and it goes up and makes that first pullback, I say it all the time. All I care about is that fast first move into that first pullback, and what it does after that, I don't care. However, pretty much all of my max losses, except for I think it was Neon, where that one just went absolutely nuts and got me on the front side. I get the pullback. It doesn't come down through my average, so I end up still in it. It goes back up, and then I end up fighting what turns into a grinder, makes a secondary move, whatever it may be. And those always tend to be my max losses. So had I just cut it at high of day, had I had a plan to not let it get past, a certain point after that, like say it goes up through 750 and my max loss is sitting at like 765 or something like that. Okay, fine. But I can't let it go all the way to like 820 or $9 or whatever it is to give me that $1,000 max loss instead of what is now only 300. I'm now trying to make $50 per trade and I'm only risking 300. I got back down to where I originally started all the way back in January 1st of 2021. However, it's even better now because back then, like I said, I was risking $150 trying to make $10 a trade. That was 15x. But since then, I've evolved. I've learned. I've become a little bit better at my craft. I've started to be better at my entries, understanding when to add. I've learned a lot, right, since the beginning of 2021. And so now, 2 years later, I am now understanding that I can try to squeeze as much as I can with risking a lot less. So by trying to make $50 a trade, if I was still at $1,000, that's what, 10 or no, that's 20x. I'm risking 20x right there. However, if I bring it down to $300, I'm only risking 6x, which is a huge, huge difference. And I mean, that's really the only change. So in reality, I didn't necessarily do anything that's new. In fact, it's actually kind of old. I went back to what I was doing at the beginning of 2021. I went back to what was working. And I mean, look at my P&L chart back from 2021 until I started trying to scale. And when I started trying to scale is when I started changing things. I mean, these were dumb trades on that first dip. And this was a really dumb trade on Neon where I just got emotional. But that's not the point. The point is, look at how steady it was. Even when I had max losses, this is a max loss. This is a max loss. This is a max loss. Like these are max losses and they don't look like anything. However, look at these. These look treacherous. And it's because they were, right? I'm losing 20, 25, 30x what I was trying to make when I was at this point. And now, hopefully, as we're moving back up here, which is pretty much what I started doing. I believe and I was obviously after this loss, but I can't zoom in on this chart. I don't think. Uh, Never actually tried to do that. Um, but since we took this loss here, which was another $1,000 loss, I was like, something's got to change because every time I get into a bad trade, it's like I just always lose that thousand and I can't seem to get away from it. So, is there any way that I can either lose less or just not be in those trades for as long as I am? And like I said, I went back, looked at my stats, and once I got past that like $300 mark, being unrealized $300, it just didn't make sense to usually be in the trade anymore. So that was kind of how I came up with that number. I would have loved to go lower if possible, but I feel like I still need that little bit of wiggle room. Now on this one, I would have only lost after this last ad here when it came down. If it went back to high of day, I only would have lost like 100 and I think it was like $60. And I should have made, had I kept my order out where it was, around $60. So that's almost making point 0.5, which is the whole idea by hitting the 0.5 button of what I'm risking on any given trade. But I also was not even risking that $300. I've been averaging over $70 per day since we started doing this. And think about that even if I'm only averaging $70 per day, that's what, 4 days to make up a max loss, not weeks, not months. This one on Tesla, we took this loss in like April 11th, and then we weren't back up through that until August. That's 4 months, over 4 months to get back up where I was. Now, if I take a max loss, it should theoretically take 4 days, a week, whatever it may be. But a week is way better than 4 months, and that's really all it boils down to. It was just getting tired of seeing the same thing over and over again and just fixing it. And I went back to what I know worked. And I'm a little sad that I veered away from it to begin with. But sometimes you're so caught up in the process that sometimes you don't make the right step. And it takes until you take the wrong step a few times to realize that you are taking the wrong step. And that's how we grow as a trader, right? We all have our systems. We all have our own unique ways of using those systems. And it's going to come down to things like this that help you move forward. And unless you can actually, take the gut checks and move forward after the fact, when you take those losses, that's a big deal. And as long as you can keep this P&L chart going the same direction, you'll be doing something correctly. So it's kind of where I'm at now. I'm obviously still recovering quite a bit, and we're still red for the year. Don't let me fool you there. But again, that was with two humongous losses that should have never happened. I mean, imagine I only had a $300 loss on Neon, which would have been way up here, right? We were at 8,500 up here on the chart. We went down to like right where my mouse is up here. And then if we had a $300 loss here, right, we would have still been going up, still been going up, still going up, and then we had a $300 loss here. We would have already been back through the highs. So who knows if we even would have tapped that previous area here? I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, we did. We lost almost $2,000 on one trade, which is just stupid and emotional, and it should have never happened. And it took that and then another $1,000 loss here for me to step in and realize something needs to change. And the fact of the matter is, I kept that $1,000 loss there as I was scaling, trying to close that gap as much as I could. But it just bit me. It bit me two times here, and once it bit me those two times, I was like, okay, there's really no reason to have it that high, because once a trade gets past that certain point, there's no need for me to be in it. I'm basically just giving the market money at that point. So I think I pretty much explained everything. Like I said, there was really nothing spectacular about what I did, and hopefully this helps somebody out, and maybe we can all move forward together based off of this knowledge. And I look forward to seeing you guys here in the future. Like and subscribe. Always appreciate the support. If you do have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those down below. You can find me in Discord or on Twitter. Those links are in the description. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.